Myself, Chelsea Hogg, Nathan Baldwin, and Will Tindal will be discussing our unit that is based on sharing with the use of the resource The Rainbow Fish by Marcus Pfister. This book will help make this unit engaging and allow a more deep and meaningful connection to content due to the ability for students to relate to the real-life world. The lessons have teaching and learning sequences and activities that provoke creativity and allow for effective assessment throughout.
This unit of learning is designed for a Stage 2 Year 3 class. The unit will incorporate all 4 creative art forms: music, drama, dance, and visual arts. The focus of the unit will be to develop student understanding and skills regarding the 4 art forms through activities that promote creativity and provide learning outcomes in a sequential nature, building on prior knowledge. The music activity will have students identify and replicate sounds from the ocean through singing. Students will learn to perform a variety of music through singing, playing, and moving, demonstrating an understanding of the music. They will learn about musical concepts such as pitch, tone color, and dynamics through the voice, as well as respond to music through performing and organizing sound activities and identifying features of this music.
The drama activity will have students understand sharing by using each other to create and complement various improvisations and eventual storytelling. These are themes evident in the chosen picture book. Contrast, mood, and space will all be elements that will be incorporated and developed through the sequential activities that give students creative and collaborative freedom. Students will learn to use these elements to deepen the meaning of drama and in discussing drama work. They will learn about drama through the experience of interpreting everyday situations through a range of drama elements, specifically tension, contrast, space, and mood.
The visual arts lesson will have students create an underwater landscape, including a fish similar to that of the rainbow fish, one that reflects individuality of students. Opportunities to investigate the rich diversity of forms, structures, and life patterns of living things will be enhanced through the focus on colour, shape, texture, size, and movement, qualities that will be developed throughout this activity. Students will learn to select and explore different aspects of subject matter, in particular, the ways in their making of artworks. They will learn how artists, including themselves, have intentions that affect the look of their work and its details.
The dance lesson will have students perform movements representing various sea life, with students' movements demonstrating both underwater and above water forms. Students will gain a deeper understanding of dynamics, action, and time through this activity as they see how the body can move, what actions the body can perform, and at what speed they can perform these movements. Students will learn to sustain expressive qualities and movement skills to convey intent in a dance performance. They will learn about dance through the use of elements to make meaning in the creation of dance in a performance and for an audience.
The unit will also include perspectives throughout the 4 lessons. Gender will be taken into account when conducting our learning activities by removing any stereotypes when performing and planning, with examples from girls and boys being used for demonstrations, as well as no set assigning of gender roles. For example, any student can act as any gender when performing drama. Students will be required to engage in all activities to remove any stereotypes that may exist, such as dancing is only for girls. Multiculturalism will also be prevalent across the 4 activities, with the inclusion of different cultural practices. Examples of oceans and living things from other countries will be used in conjunction with the picture book to highlight that other cultures are a rich source of inspiration when it comes to these 4 art forms. By incorporating diverse cultures, these lessons are also increasing student understanding of tolerance towards others.
Activities will be implemented once a week for 2-hour sessions. This will be done weekly for 4 weeks. Due to time allocations of the curriculum, allowing 2 hours for one art form allows the lesson to be completed that thoroughly implements all necessary outcomes and develops ideas throughout the lesson. 2 hours will allow the teacher to introduce the concepts, model to the students, guide their activity, allow independent and group work in the activity, and have adequate scope to conduct formative assessments, all whilst sequencing and building off previous ideas developed throughout the lesson. If lessons were scattered throughout the week, too much time would be spent recapping on what was done in the last lesson and potentially having students forget key concepts. Each week will focus on a different art form. However, the umbrella theme of the chosen picture book will be reoccurring, meaning students will continually build on previous ideas.
The umbrella concept chosen to frame and structure the lessons is the picture book, The Rainbow Fish, by Marcus Pfister. It includes the theme of happiness through sharing, a theme that can be explored throughout all forms and all art forms and be built on sequentially. Children should be able to express themselves in a creative fashion, and this book allows this through a variety of methods. It provides visual arts lessons with setting and structure as students can recreate the underwater environments and the creatures within through painting. The strong use of colour, texture, shape, size, and movement is evident within the pages of this story, can be utilised as the teacher models these techniques in front of the class. It also allows an overarching theme of underwater that can be intertwined with all 4 art forms, particularly dance. Having students understand dynamics, action, and time will be easily achieved by having them perform as if they were underwater. Movements will be emphasised and precise, which can then be compared to regular movements. By using this idea from the book, students will be able to acknowledge their movements and begin to create meaning through them.
Drama activities will incorporate the theme of sharing by having students working together and offering ideas in order to help one another with improvised performances. When students work together and offer effective ideas, an understanding of mood, space, and contrast can be developed. Students can also take other ideas from the book, incorporating the ocean and living things into their improvisations. With regards to music activities, children will use the setting of the book, the ocean, as an inspiration for the sounds they will create. By demonstrating the slow, soft sounds of water compared to the loud crashing of waves, students will gain appreciation of pitch, tone color, and dynamics.
As students are at such a crucial stage of development, not only academically, but emotionally as well, the picture book and theme within it were chosen as they include such important ideas that students can take away and utilize in their art forms. Students will identify the theme themselves as after they have had the book read to them, a discussion will follow where students gain understanding about the underlying message of the book. Students will all identify instances where they have identified with this theme in real life and how these experiences have made them feel. Having students relate to the past experiences will allow them to express ideas more effectively throughout the 4 art forms. As not everyone in the class knows each other, this theme and the activities used to teach it allows for students who do not regularly engage with each other to work together creatively to achieve outcomes, all whilst understanding the importance of sharing. All the students in this class will have had an experience in their life where they have felt better about themselves due to the act of sharing. A lot of friendships in this class have been formed this way. Positive relationships in the class allow creative arts lessons to run extremely smoothly as everyone partakes and gets out of the lesson exactly what is assigned.
In the classroom, it is important for all students to have a quality learning environment in which they feel included and engaged in at all times. When looking at the overall theme of the unit, we chose to look at sharing. This overarching idea was decided on due to students' experiences within the classroom and everyday life. It is important that the key idea of sharing is prominent at this age, as often classes are diverse in behaviour, materials, and resources, in which students need to be prepared to work in groups and share effectively. When discussing this, we looked at using a picture book to tie all this together and become our umbrella in which we could integrate visual arts, dance, drama, and music. Through the use of The Rainbow Fish by Marcus Pfister, it gives us the opportunity to help students link different ideas across all art forms and make the content and key message engaging and meaningful.
The unit will be an integration of all art forms in which all tie into the umbrella idea of sharing through the use of the book, The Rainbow Fish. This will help give structure and create links for students throughout this unit. As previously stated, activities will be implemented once a week for a 2-hour session, in total running weekly for 4 weeks. This lesson will look at the performing music outcome for 2.1, sings, plays, and moves to a range of music, demonstrating a basic knowledge of musical concepts. And listening 2.4 identifies the use of musical concepts and musical symbols in a range of repertoire. To begin the lesson, students will gather on the floor and will have a discussion about what the ocean sounds like and what noises they think of when they look at the Rainbow Fish book cover. Some key inquiry questions will arise where the teacher asks students to imagine themselves inside the setting of the book. What animals would be around them, thinking about the noises they will make and what the ocean around them might sound like.
Students will share throughout the class discussion, which gives the teacher the ability to make observations about engagement and participation. The teacher will then put on a YouTube video called Disney Music and Ambience that looks at coral reef underwater sounds. This will play for 5 minutes, and in this time, students will be directed to listen for any specific sounds they hear, including pitch, tempo, tone color, and dynamics. Students will listen and reflect on this piece of music, discussing features and overall how they felt when they listened to it. Then students will be placed into groups in which they must compose their own piece of music, which allows their understanding of underwater world they see when looking at the cover of the Rainbow Fish. They will work in small groups in which they must share ideas and resources to collaboratively perform a piece. They may do this through the use of percussion instruments provided in the classroom, online sounds, music apps on their computers such as GarageBand, or through body percussion.
At the end of the class, they will perform or play their underwater songs in which the teacher will make a summative assessment of how well they have addressed criteria and on their ability to work together in order to produce a collaborative piece. Students will reflect on their own work and others and will fill out a peer assessment sheet for each group that provides meaningful and constructive feedback. This lesson allows for creativity on many levels as students are free to use whatever resources they prefer and can use the video source at the beginning of the lesson along with the front cover of the book to provoke this creativity whilst also providing structure and support.
The visual arts lesson will focus on appreciating 2.4, identifies connection between subject matter in artworks and what they refer to, and appreciates the use of particular techniques. Along with making 2.1, represents the qualities of experiences and things that are interesting or beautiful by choosing among aspects of subject matter. It will begin with looking at the book, The Rainbow Fish, and asking students to reflect on the different things they see. For example, sand, water, fish, or scales.
Students will be guided in trying to identify resemblances between subject matter in the book and the features of things as they exist in the world. They will discuss how the artist may have achieved certain effects and as a group will express opinions and appreciate these skills. The teacher will ask students how they might use a sponge to make texture or how watercolors may create an ocean water effect. The teacher will then explain to students that they will be creating an underwater landscape in which represents the idea of sharing habitats. The teacher will display a range of different stimuluses that show different animals and habitats underwater to spark ideas and give students a scaffold in which they can further develop into their own creative piece. For example, students may include coral, crab holes, or seagrass to display how animals can share the same space and live together.
Students will focus on their selection of materials, tools, and techniques to make their artwork. The teacher will move around the classroom, discussing with students their intentions and asking them how they used color, shape, and texture to achieve certain effects. There will be a summative assessment at the end of the lesson as students hand in their works. For marking, along with formative assessments, as students fill out a reflection sheet at the end of the lesson, highlighting what they enjoyed, what they did well, and what they could improve on. This will allow students to not only recognise their own learning achievements, but will give the teacher insight into what might need to change to maximise engagement and achieve optimal learning in the future.
For the art form drama, the lesson will look at the making outcome 2.2, builds the action of the drama by using the elements of drama, movement, and voice skills, and the appreciating outcome 2.4 responds to and interprets drama experiences and performances. To begin the lesson, the teacher will get students to move around the classroom and to spread out using all the space around them. As the students move around, the teacher will call out different situations and objects, such as a crab running on the sand, scuba diving, a turtle swimming, or a fish swimming through the ocean, and the students need to convey these through movements. This will link to the syllabus as students have to interpret everyday and imagined situations to make drama. The students are able to work together, but this task will be silent and require students to move and communicate using only their bodies, movements, and actions. This will get students moving around and will require them to be engaged and immersed in the learning activity, as they have to pay attention to the visual movements rather than relying on verbal interaction. As students do this, the teacher will be observing students' engagement and movements to assess their participation and knowledge of drama elements.
The teacher will then gather students and review the book, The Rainbow Fish. As a class, they will discuss the tension, contrast, symbol, time, space, focus, and mood of different scenes, paying close attention to how the characters felt. The teacher will ask the students how they would feel in these different situations. Can they think of a time when they have felt this way in their life? What would they say or act like if they were there? All of these questions will provoke emotion, reflection, and creativity in their thinking. The teacher will then create a scenario in which highlights the key theme of sharing. They will be in groups of 3 to 4 students and all collaboratively develop a storyline in which allows them to all have a part in their performance. They must use elements of drama, movement, and voice when doing this. Before beginning this, they will sit down as a group and create a mind map or comic-like storyline, which shows how they might undergo this task. This will allow the teacher to make formative assessment on their prior knowledge and will allow the students to express their creativity in another form other than performance.
To conclude the lesson, the students will come together and will perform their piece to each other. As a class, they will share and peer assess as they unpack what is happening in each performance and explore how it relates to the overarching theme of sharing. This will relate to outcome 2.4 as they respond to and interpret their peers' performances. The teacher will be observing how students recognise different elements of drama and how they communicate their reasoning for their own ideas and choices. The students will be formatively assessed through their performances to see if they were able to express different meanings and how they did this. The teacher can also examine how students unpack their performances and interpret the different performances.
The dance lesson will look at all 3 outcomes as students compose, perform, and appreciate. Students begin on the floor as the teacher asks students questions such as, what movement does a fish make underwater? Why do they move like this? The teacher will then ask students to spread out on the floor and will ask students to show through dance or movement how an octopus, turtle, crab, starfish, and fish move. This will go on for 5 minutes as they discuss why they move like this. Students will then all link together and look at the different way the ocean moves. For example, a calm, choppy, or a big wave. Through getting students to think of these movements, they are being creatively engaged as working together collaboratively, sharing ideas and reasoning. This section of the lesson will address composing outcome 2.2, explores, selects, and combines movement using the elements of dance to communicate ideas, feelings, or moods, as students respond to verbal stimulus whilst thinking about a series of movements to reflect this. Students will then be put into groups of 4 and will all decide on a sea creature they can express through dance and movement to compose a small performance in which responds to the idea of sharing. For example, one student may do a crab walk movement to symbolize a crab on the bottom of the ocean.
With 20 minutes to go in the lesson, Students will gather on the floor with a pen and paper. As students perform in their groups, other students will be writing down what animals were in the dance and what elements of dance the groups did well, for example, dynamics, space, or shape. This will allow for formative assessment and peer assessment, as the teacher is able to see how students are able to appreciate and recognise different elements when participating as an audience member and observing. This links to the appreciating outcome 2.3, as students give personal opinions about the use of elements and meaning in their own and others' dances.
For students who are performing, they will be looking at outcome 2.1, performs dances from a range of contexts, demonstrating movement skills, expressive qualities, and an understanding of the elements of dance. Within this outcome, students will be assessed through summative methods as the teacher looks at how students organize their ideas into movement sequences and structure it into a performance, along with how they use expressive qualities to communicate feelings and convey the key idea of sharing throughout their dance performance.
Throughout all lessons, students have been encouraged to think and act in a creative manner. It is key within all art forms that students are able to not only think creatively and form ideas, but that they are able to express themselves confidently. By including an introduction and resources that provoke creativity and scaffold ideas to guide them, students are able to be immersed in a creative capacity that can lead them to be more confident in the choices they make when composing and evidently performing or making.
Creativity is also seen throughout the appreciating sections of the lessons across all 4 art forms, as students are able to express how these performances or artworks have made them feel and can be creative in how they interpret and express their opinions.
In terms of assessment, all lessons are collaborative in some form and therefore all use peer assessment and feedback, which is evident throughout the appreciating outcomes. The teacher is also able to make formative and summative assessment through looking at outcomes and how students have used tone and pitch, for example, in their performances. The use of self and peer assessment sheets and discussion is also valuable in relation to giving students feedback and also allowing the teacher to make ongoing changes and improvements to lessons in order to make the learning sequences more beneficial for all students.